Welcome to the Fascia-Informed Therapist, the essential podcast for occupational therapy professionals looking to deepen their understanding of fascia's pivotal role in therapy and health. I'm your host, Amy Mayer, an experienced occupational therapist, practice owner, and dedicated educator. Here we'll dive into the fascinating world of fascia, exploring its significance in the human body and its critical influence on occupational therapy practice. Each episode will bring you cutting-edge insights, expert interviews, and practical strategies to help you confidently integrate the science of fascia into your therapeutic approach. Whether you're a seasoned practitioner or just starting out, our goal is to equip you with high-quality, evidence-based, and fascia-informed continuing education opportunities that will enhance your skills and benefit your clients. So join us as we unravel the complexities of fascia and transform the way you practice occupational therapy. All health and wellness practitioners are welcome. Let's learn, grow, and evolve together. Hi, this is Amy, and this is another edition of the Fascia-Informed Therapist. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this episode. This idea came to me because of a conversation I had with a client yesterday. And she asked me about something that she was seeing on social media that was popping up in her feed. And I've been seeing this client for a while, but I don't think she spends a lot of time on social media. And she was seeing advertisements for a tool that is sold particularly to women to help them get rid of cellulite. And they say that it targets the fascia, and it's a hard plastic tool that has these claw-looking plastic things coming out of it. And the instructions is to rub that on your skin in order to get rid of your fascia. And I'm not going to say what the company is, obviously, but if you are around fascia at all, you probably know what I'm talking about. Now, she's asking me about it because she's been hanging out with me long enough that she questioned a little bit about what this tool was about, the structure of it, and what it was supposed to do. And I actually saw that tool being advertised way back in, I think it was 2015 or 16. And I was super excited because I really wasn't able to find that much on fascia out on social media, on the internet. Couldn't find books, wasn't really finding too many articles yet, even though they were out there. I just wasn't finding them. Things were just sort of trickling in. I maybe had found the Tom Myers book, Anatomy Trains, by then, and was reading that. And I was definitely reading Katie Bowman's stuff, which isn't fascia related, but it was getting me to think very differently about movement and the importance of it in our health and how it affects us down to the cellular level. Anyway, I was excited about it, but when I started digging into and following the links and going to the website, I couldn't find anything about this person that was advertising this tool. I couldn't find any credentials, but what I was gathering is that this person was an excellent marketer and super good at social media and super good at websites, because very flashy and beautiful pictures and videos, and some of them to me looked very airbrushed, showing the results of using the tool. Where the conversation went with this client was, of course, my feedback to her was, well, you can't. Well, I took her into some history first, and I think I have a blog out there somewhere on this topic as well. I think I addressed cellulite in a past blog post on my Mayor Wellness blog, not on the Fascia-Informed blog. Sorry, I have so many things I want to say. And that's kind of where I was when I was talking to this client too. I had to kind of take a breath and slow down and say, okay, so yeah. So what is happening here is someone learned about fascia and really took that information and ran with it. But some of the information was kind of old information. And what the instructions were to women using this tool was you've got to really scrub on the skin in order to affect the fascia and reduce the restrictions that are creating the look of cellulite. And now we know that doing that is very dangerous. And this person kind of found out the same thing because in, I believe it was 2000, late 16 or 17, there was a lot of lawsuits around this particular tool. And I think it was 7 different states, women from 7 different states came together and were all having different problems and decided to file a lawsuit against the company, the individual that was promoting this tool, because women were getting injured. Now, I actually had 2 women show up in my clinic talking about the tool. One had purchased it, but then after talking with me and experiencing my form of myofascial work and me explaining that, then she had told me that she had this tool. She's like, I feel like after what I've learned, I shouldn't use that. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Thanks for telling me you have that. And I would say I wouldn't use it in the way that they suggested. And this was the way they suggested it back then. They have since changed their instructions to be much more gentle, but I still think the research doesn't support anything really hard on your skin. But even though they're saying using it light, I don't know. I hate to say something's not going to work because maybe it's going to work for some people. And do we have super definitive results? But here's why I think you don't want to be aggressive with something that's hard plastic, especially. You have the skin layer. Okay, if we imagine the skin as a horizontal layer, and then the layer below that is adipose tissue, and there's a lot of structures that run through there: circulatory structures, nerve structures, lymphatic structures. And then below that, you have a horizontal layer of superficial fascia. Now, we know the fascia is not truly layers, but that's the easier way to speak about it. And then you have vertical. Imagine these little vertical bands that are connecting the superficial fascia to the skin. And then everything's running through there, right? So basically what happens, maybe when you're dehydrated or you've gained a little extra adipose tissue, you're forcing more adipose tissue in that space, and then those vertical bands get more taut, and then that creates those little dimples, and that's more prominent in some people than in others. And some people naturally have stiffer, tighter fascia, and some people naturally have looser fascia, but all of our fascia is tension to some degree in order to help us function. So anyway, what they're basically saying is if you scrub hard enough, this was again back in 2015, 16, 17, scrub hard enough, you're going to reduce those restrictions, they called them. I think they're talking about the vertical bands. And then you won't have those dimples anymore. And so women were going at it because, unfortunately in our culture, we're taught that that's ugly. That's not normal. You shouldn't have that. And of course, in our culture, we often fall prey to that. So it's just an example of how the beauty industry tries to make us feel bad about things, so we buy their products and try to make ourselves more acceptable to the public or whatever, whoever's looking and caring about our cellulite. I don't know. And that's a real thing, and I absolutely don't mean to make light of it, because I remember looking at teen magazines when I was a kid and feeling like I should look like these girls that are on the teen magazine. Why did I have red hair and freckles and not blonde hair and blue eyes, or the beautiful brown hair and brown eyes? And it's just, there's just a standard out there that's really hard to live up to, and we know that. I think anybody listening to this knows that. And I'm still getting to the main point that I want to make. So we're going to switch gears here for a second. Back when I was at Creighton and teaching, I also taught in the post-professional program, and I had the opportunity to create and offer a 3-credit elective in the program. And the elective that I offered was integrative. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was something like integrative and complementary alternative medicines and occupational therapy practice. And the whole course was really about what's out there in the world in terms of integrative and complementary practices, and should we be aware of them and why as occupational therapy practitioners. And my, of course, answer is yeah, we should. We should know about them, because there's some of them we can use in our practice if we go get a little more education about them. But then there's some that we probably aren't going to, or we'd have to get a lot of additional education. But knowing about them is important because the public is using them. They're turning toward them to help with their health and wellness. And when we're working with our clients, we want to know them holistically. We want to know what they're doing, what their goals are. And if they're involved in doing complementary alternative medicines, how is that going to integrate with what we're doing? The other thing the literature was saying at the time, and I'm sure if I dug into it now, it'd probably be similar, was that I believe it was like 30% of the population was using integrative or alternative medicines, but they weren't telling their doctor about it when they went to doctor visits. And they weren't telling the doctor because they were afraid that they were going to be shamed or poo-pooed for using the alternative medicines that they wanted to use. And that could be anything from doing Reiki to myofascial work to using crystals to going and getting tinctures or essential oils. And from that time until now, there's probably a whole lot more research that supports those things. And I do think there's a more open-mindedness in the medical community, but I still hear from my clients of being poo-pooed for trying things that are different and outside of the traditional medical model. So the course I created basically said, our job isn't to go learn all these things and integrate them into our practice. If it's helpful, if it's interest to you and it's helpful to your clients, go do it. But at minimum, our job is to help clients understand as best they can whether or not they're doing something that is helpful or potentially harmful to them, and how can they figure that out. So directing them towards resources that are evidence-based, for example, that are of higher quality. The other is helping them understand credentials and licensing, and that some of the people that they're going to and the things that they're doing, they don't have to be licensed to do that. And what does a credential mean? And can you look at their credentials? So, for example, in at least the state of Nebraska, I don't know if there's any state that licenses yoga practitioners, maybe yoga therapists, but there's no license for that. And telling them, what is registration for a yoga practitioner? Can you go to the Yoga Alliance and find them listed to know that they've at least gone through a 200-hour certification? But then also knowing that you can have a 200-hour certification and, nobody's really checked to see the quality of what they're doing, just that they've attended so many seminars. So if they're really looking for someone that does yoga that can be helpful to them, maybe they want to look for someone because they're interested in getting yoga for a health reason. Maybe they want to find someone who's a yoga practitioner and also has PT or OT credentials. Because there's a big difference, I think, between someone who maybe is an accountant one day and then they go and get their 200-hour certificate to teach yoga. They've learned a lot and they know the poses and they've gotten some basic anatomy and some of the basic things that you need, that you gather in your 200-hour. You learn some different styles of yoga. And that can vary wildly depending on where you go to get your 200 hours. But I remember going to the anatomy course that I had to do for my 200 hours and contrasting that with what I learned from my undergraduate and my graduate education and then the continuing education I've had since then. I mean, it's a massive difference. And I'm not saying that to belittle someone who was an accountant and got their yoga. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's great. I think there's people who need you are going to find you. But again, our job is if we've got somebody in front of us as an OT practitioner and they're telling us that they're going to a yoga class to help them with their low back pain, then helping them find the right yoga class. If they have a lot of mobility issues and they end up in this vinyasa flow class with a bunch of 20 or 30-year-olds, really fit people, they're in the wrong class and they're likely going to get hurt. So helping them do a deeper level investigation into getting what they need. And you may not be able to answer all their questions. And for example, there's, I have several clients who go see an herbalist. I have no idea about any of that kind of stuff, but I could answer their questions on ask them what their credentials are, go to their website. What does that mean when they say they were trained by this? Is it a licensed? And if it is a licensed thing and they're not, then, you have big questions for them. So teaching them how to do that investigation. And if we kind of switch gears now back to that original topic, fascia is becoming more popular. Google has a tool where you can go in and put search terms and you can look at the change in the search over the years. And when I put the term fascia in, before 2015, it was very low. Not a lot of people were putting fascia in Google and doing searches. But in 15-16, where this beauty tool came out, it popped way up. And then after a couple of years, it dipped down again, kind of back to where it was. And then it's been slowly climbing over the years to come up a little bit higher. So my message with this is fascia is becoming a search term. Aside from myofascial release, people want to better understand this system in their body. And they want to better understand it because they're hearing it from the beauty world. They're hearing it, use these tools on your face to affect your fascia and it will help your lymphatic flow. They're also hearing it from athletics. They're hearing it in high-level athletics. They're seeing Olympic athletes with their cupping marks and they're using the word fascia and people are Googling it. What is this? Is this something that will help my mobility? Whether they're a weekend warrior type athlete or maybe they do Ironman stuff or who knows. They're looking for it. And what we saw, if we circle back to the beginning, is some people are being sold something that isn't necessarily in their best interests. And if we don't understand the science of fascia, we can't explain to our clients why that's a good idea or a not so good idea when it comes to something that they're being sold. Another example is there's a lot of fascia is big in the yoga community too. And I fully support that. I think that's great. However, it's I've been to courses where they've talked about it. I've been to classes where they've talked about it. And I'm like, yeah, that's not quite up to date, but I'm not going to be that person who stands up and starts lecturing on the science of fascia. But also if a client is talking to us about, again, their back pain, their neck pain, their shoulder issue, and they say, well, there's this yoga for your fascia class that I saw advertised. Should I buy that? Should I go to that? Then we can say, okay, well, let's look at it. Or here's what you want to look for. But again, if you're not versed in this body system called the fascial system, you can't help them with that. And my goal, my mission is to get this science in the hands of as many therapists and therapy assistants and OT practitioners, PT, massage, whoever wants to listen, nurse practitioners, whoever is willing to listen, because I think it's that important. Okay, I think that's enough for today. I'll close by talking about last time I mentioned this little teeny bit of a potential book contract, and the contract got signed last week, and so I'm super excited to report that I'm working with Cognella Publishing now to create a textbook for occupational therapy practitioners and students on becoming a fascia-informed practitioner and how our occupations shape us is the working title. Now that I have a year to write this book and I'm well on my way, so it hopefully will come out before that. But in the meantime, if you want to learn about the science of fascia and how it applies to OT practice, I have my courses, and we'll be opening up the science course again here in probably mid-November. We still don't have a solid date yet, but keep your eye out for that. We do have, if you go to our Teachable page, which you can get to through our Fascia-Informed website, the course library, you can put your name on an email list so that when we do open it, you will be notified. And I hope you do that so you can help me reach my goal of teaching everybody about the science of fascia so that we can best help the clients that we so much want to serve. All right, everybody, have a great day. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in to the Fascia-Informed Therapist. It's been a pleasure sharing insights and strategies to help you integrate fascia science into your practice. I'm Amy Mayer, and I hope today's episode has inspired you to explore further and take your therapeutic skills to the next level. Remember, we're committed to creating and providing top-notch, evidence-based, fascia-informed continuing education that empowers you as an occupational therapy practitioner. Stay connected with us for more enriching content, and don't forget to check out our online courses to deepen your expertise. Until next time, keep expanding your knowledge, refining your skills, and confidently applying the science of fascia to your practice. Here's to advancing together in health and wellness.